Care Services, because there's no place like home.
Good morning and happy South Florida Saturday. Once again, Mike McGann here with you as I always am, and this is Limitless Health Horizons, brought to you by Horizon Care Services, providing excellence in private duty home care. Their phone number is 561-776-7757, 561-776-7757, and the website, horizoncareservices.com. And I know. Listen, it's not an April Fool's thing to say they really are the very best out there when it comes to providing that kind of care. And I have with me the owner, the founder, my dear friend, and just one of the most special people in the world, Andrea Albertini. Good morning, Andrea.
Good morning, Michael. How was your week?
It was a great week, and have some fun tonight at this cool event we have going on. It's April Fool's Day, but we're here to be, we're here with some serious subject matter, but
Yes.
We do like to have a little fun with it and also just explain what it means to people when it comes to things like home care, when it comes to what Horizon does, when it comes to long-term aging in place. And today we have a really interesting guest we're going to get to in just a moment because it ties in so deeply to some of the challenges that the senior community really faces, especially as they're aging and trying to age in place, Andrea.
Oh, absolutely. And we come across to those seniors all the time.
Yes.
So it's very important to have Alexia here today.
Yes.
And which you're going to introduce her. I'm sorry about that, Alexia. And that's exciting. So thank you for being in here, and we're going to have a good time today.
We always do. And that's the great thing about Horizon Care Services is, you bring so many wonderful other people, products and services into your fold. You're so well balanced when it comes to providing that care and whatever it is that people need. We've had pharmacists on the air here. We've had people who provide different kinds of home care, all under one roof and all in one shop that is always designed for the unique best interests of the human beings who need those services. Not clients, not statistics, but people, mothers, fathers, grandparents. And Andrea, the team that you put together makes it so much easier for someone, if they're living in another county, another state, to know that their loved ones are getting the very best care in every area. It really is your passion.
Oh, absolutely. You got to remember, most of our clients, the family doesn't live here.
Right.
Or if they do, they don't live in the same city or the same, same state sometimes, but
Right.
not always. Most of the time, the children don't live here, and their parents are aging in place. And, it takes a leap of faith to be able to find the right home health agency. And we are not just a home health agency. No. We are Horizon Care Services. We provide everything and anything for someone aging in place. So, and we love to be able to continue to keep everyone at home as long as we can.
Right.
But Mike, sometimes a patient does require to move into a community.
That can happen from time to time, but you've also worked with finding the right communities for people.
Exactly.
There really is the peace of mind that is provided through Horizon Care Services, and just you in particular. I know I tend to harp on this a bit, but Horizon Care Services has been around for a very long time, and 60% of the caregivers that are with you have been there since day one, which speaks so much for their loyalty to you as a person and the way you run that particular operation.
We give it back to our caregivers.
Yes.
Because we wanted them to be able to give the very best to all of our patients. And one of the things that I wanted to do this show, Mike, is because not everyone is lucky to know who we are when they need a private duty agency. So I wanted to share with them not only about Horizon Care Services, but all of the wonderful providers that's out there that makes Horizon Care Services provide the very best in care.
It really is. It's amazing who you find and the services that you find, because they really are the best out there. You can learn more about it in general by heading over to horizoncareservices.com, and learn all about it. Now, today's guest is Alexia, who she is a psychotherapist. And we had some extensive conversation before we went on the air today. Really very, very interesting. And I think it's so timely looking back at, taking COVID as an example of this, which everybody went through, and a lot of us were very isolated. But the senior community, especially people that are aging in place, there can be, already isolation was a huge issue. The mental health problems that can come with that. Mental and emotional health issues in general, primarily with the senior population. That really kind of shined a spotlight on it, Alexia. But those problems have been around since the beginning of time. But there are new ways to deal with them. There are new modalities. There are a lot of ways that you help people through these challenging times, dealing with trauma and so on. So Alexia, welcome to Limitless Health Horizons.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Andrea, thank you for telling me about this beautiful opportunity. And I'm excited to talk about what I do and how I can help the elderly population.
So let's talk a little bit about it because, in this area, there's a lot of seniors. I mean, this is it's paradise, right? So this is where people want to come. And people like my parents built their home here in 1976, and staying there was something that they wanted, and they did. Now, with that comes the fact that sometimes you do need people to come in and help you out. And when it comes to your services, let's talk a little bit about exactly what it is you do, what the demand is, and when people might need to seek your help through Horizon Care Services.
So just to tell you a little bit about myself,
Yes.
I've been in private practice on Palm Beach since 2010. I've been a licensed psychotherapist.
Were you like 11?
No.
I'm sorry, she looks spectacular.
I know, right? Thank you. It's the Greek blood.
That's it. Greek don't
And
creep.
self-care. Greek don't creep. That's true. I practice what I preach. I practice good self-care.
Yeah.
So I've been licensed for a long time as well, even before we started a private practice, my business partner and I, and we serve all populations, all ages. We specialize in substance abuse, eating disorders, trauma, anxiety, mood disorders like depression, anxiety, and we see a lot of depression, anxiety with the elderly population because of sort of like the question of, what is my purpose as I'm aging? How can I still be useful to the community? How can I connect with my loved ones, with my family, with my friends? Isolation is a big issue with the elderly population. And so we offer individual therapy services, we offer group, we offer family therapy, couples therapy, and we're even expanding to visiting now the population in their homes, whereas before we were sort of locked into the private practice.
Right.
Now I'm expanding and doing online therapy as well as visiting my clients in their homes.
Wow, that's so comprehensive. And you hit something very interesting there. And that was that sense of purpose. I think that's really important when it comes to understanding the perspective of where you've been in your life. And I imagine that there can be a lot of trauma with not knowing that or having some of those things blocked by trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think especially since COVID, the pandemic was something new for all of us.
Yeah.
It was something that even as therapists, we didn't know how to really handle and experience. But I found that it was very difficult, especially for the elderly population, because they were even more isolated than they were before.
Right.
And I think that it's so important to empower the elderly community to know that they do have purpose, they do matter, their voice is heard, that the things that they've experienced even when they were younger, they can still process even in their elderly age.
Sure.
That it's never too late to work on some of the traumas and these traumatic life events that they experienced, and also be able to pass on their wisdom to the younger generation. I think it's so important that they're heard.
Well, that's a really good point. It ties in not only to isolation, but when you're aging and kind of feeling like you don't want that legacy wasted. That's really powerful. You can learn more about Alexia's practice by heading on over to islandcounselinggroup.com. That is islandcounselinggroup.com. Now, without getting too specific, what are some of the more common issues that you do see among the elderly population? When do people bring you in, Alexia?
I think when it's interesting with the elderly population specifically, I'll usually get a call from a family member saying, my mother has stopped eating, or she's not sleeping well, or she's talking about, passing on or death a lot. Those to me are signs of depression and isolation. And so usually it's the family member, a child, even a spouse who will call me and say, can you intervene? Can you see my mother? Can you see my father? Can you see my sibling? And so that's when I'll do an evaluation and evaluate the patient to see if they're willing to even, continue therapy with me and willing to get the help and the services they need.
Now, another question here, and again, I don't want to get too specific just because every case is different. And one thing I never want to do is seem like there's anything cookie cutter about anything that you do or anything any of us do here.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But what are some of the more common type of treatments and therapies that you end up using that are beneficial to the people who need them?
Well, I'm a traditional talk therapist, so I do the classic processing with an individual, and that's always really helpful. Everybody wants to be heard and validated for their thoughts and their feelings. So just even holding a space for a client and just being there in their presence and listening can do wonders especially for the elderly population. I also do something really unique called dance movement therapy. And
this is intriguing to me.
Yes.
I love that when she told me about it. I was so excited. Yep.
Yeah, let's talk a bit about that.
Dance movement therapy is the psychotherapeutic use of movement, and it helps someone integrate their cognition, their social abilities, their physical faculties. It helps to connect the mind, body, and spirit. And so that's what we believe as dance movement therapists. We believe that they're interconnected. So movement therapy helps facilitate that integration for a person. So especially for the elderly population, they start to dissociate as they get older. Their faculties are not always as sharp as they were when they were younger. So movement really helps to kind of facilitate that integration for them. And it even reminds them of when they were younger. It even reminds them of songs and memories that were locked away perhaps in their body. And when they start moving, all of that information starts to surface, and then we can process and talk about it. It's really powerful.
It's fun because we're not talking about like a tango unless it's what they want to do.
Right.
But I would imagine, do we see people that are like physically acting out traumatic experience through motion? Is it that sense of trying to break through a barrier and physically, do we see all of this? This is such an interesting topic to me.
So I'll tell you a little bit about the structure, how I work with individuals. So typically I start off with a warm-up, and I'll just ask the person, just based on their mobility, level, just to do a warm-up movement. So it can actually even be just moving your wrist around. And so I'll mirror their movement, and that's called kinesthetic empathy.
Right.
So I'll feel in my body, because of the mirror neurons, what they're feeling in their body. And that's very powerful for an individual who feels isolated. Is, wow, she understands how I'm feeling. She's mirroring my movement. So there's this kind of like nonverbal bond and connection that's occurring.
Wow.
And it helps them to expand even their movement. So now maybe they're moving their whole arm instead of their wrist.
They're feeling safer.
They're feeling
in that
safer.
environment too, because they feel heard and understood.
Right.
That's already a very powerful thing to see that motion expanding. So how does that progress then?
So I'll start seeing their movement expand maybe in their upper body, and then I'll ask them, what are you feeling right now? Can you express to me? So there is this element of talk therapy as well within movement therapy. And so maybe they'll say, I'm feeling some anxiety, or I'm feeling some joy. And so I'll ask, can you talk about a memory that's coming up for you, or a time that you felt this emotion? And so we'll link into that talk processing from the movement. So the movement is a metaphor of their life, of their emotional experience. It doesn't stop with the movement. The movement's like a gateway that opens up this sort of like plethora, or like this, I don't know, just almost like just a well of resources for them
like
to access.
Like you're flipping a switch and making the connection happen, so the flow can come through.
And flow is such funny that you mentioned that word flow, because we use the term flow a lot in dance movement therapy. And oftentimes when we're stuck in our lives and we don't have flow, it's because there's a barrier, there's an obstacle. So when we start moving, we begin to break that barrier and we begin to access the flow. And flow is basically like that energy, that life force that kind of propels us forward, that propels us to connect with people and ourselves.
I'm sorry, my mind is, I'm actually kind of, this is so crazy. Because I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking movement therapy. You're literally moving, but it also helps you to move forward. It helps you to move around or over those obstacles. It is literal as well as figurative.
100%.
And it's such a wildly integrative approach. This is brand new to me, and it's just
I never heard of it either.
Yeah,
this is the first time.
And I'm just picturing, I've seen music therapy where I've seen patients with advanced Alzheimer's suddenly hear a song and it brings them back, or you may see them pick up an instrument and try something if they played it before. But this is like next level, even beyond that, where it's so much more open.
I'm continually blown away by dance movement therapy because, as a talk therapist, when I would run groups, I would usually bring the content to the group. But with dance movement therapy, the content is within the person's body.
They're bringing it to you.
They're bringing it to themselves and then to me. And I'm just a witness mirroring what I'm seeing. And they feel so validated and supported. And that, to me, is such an incredible feeling as a therapist.
It reflects right back. I mean, literally, right?
It is.
I'm really kind of blown away by this because, you think dance therapy, and again, listen, there's a lot of buzzwords that get thrown around, but this is really so interesting because I see the logical flow of this.
Right.
It's kind of right there. You can learn more about it by heading on over to islandcounselinggroup.com. Our guest is Alexia Loannides, who's a psychotherapist, and she's working. How did you find this young lady, Andrea? Because she's really, what a benefit she is.
I know, Michael, I am so lucky to, I support a lot of nonprofit organizations.
Yes, you certainly do.
And actually one of the organizations that I am going to have on the show is that organization I always talk about in our show that was created to help fund for early on-site dementia.
Yes.
So we're having a lot of people now on younger age, being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and they don't have a place to go.
Yeah.
And they don't, they didn't plan it for either.
And really, who could see that coming, right? I mean, it's one of those things you think you have 40, 50 years, if it's even going to happen to you.
Exactly. And that's why, like our last guest, to talk about, planning. Planning when you're young, start planning because you don't know. So now all of those people, you got to remember, they have small kids or kids in high school, and now all of a sudden, then what? It usually happens mostly with women, which I wasn't aware of that.
Interesting.
And so, so men's, of course, male as well.
Sure.
But now those people didn't plan for it.
No.
And their spouses cannot take care of them. So then what? Their family cannot take care of them. Their family are not prepared either financially. Then what do you do with them? So this organization helps raise money just to help those people find a home, find a place. Because sometimes they have to be in a lockdown community facility. So
it really is amazing just how the people can come together around this. But that's what Horizon Care Services does. You bring in the best of the best, Andrea.
Thank you.
To provide.
I try.
Well, but it's true. I mean, just based upon the guests that we've had on this program, the services are so comprehensive, but they're trustworthy.
Yes.
You bring people in that we can be comfortable with.
And they don't have to be in my service.
Right.
To be able to use everyone we're bringing to the show.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create the show just to be able to share with the community about wonderful services that's out there in the community.
Limitless Health Horizons,
yeah.
right? That's what we do. HorizonCareServices.com. Learn more about it. Alexia, that raises an interesting point, by the way. And that is when you get something like a dementia. How can some of these therapeutic modalities serve someone who is suffering from dementia? It would seem to me, when you think about talk therapy and that kind of thing, it's so often dealing with trauma or finding a context, you're dealing with an issue. But dementia is a different ball of wax. How can it benefit that?
So I believe that the body is a storehouse of memories.
Yes.
And so there's an interesting book called The Body Keeps a Score. And it talks about how not only do we keep trauma in our bodies, but we do hold memories and feelings and emotions from our past. And so movement is that access point that can bring up emotions and memories from our past that perhaps have been forgotten or that have been affected because of dementia. Right. So, and I don't understand it, and I don't even want to I guess it's a mystery. I don't want to explain it. It's just a mystery that when I'm working with somebody who has dementia and they start moving and they remember something because of a movement that they're doing, to me, that's the mystery of the body. That's the genius of the body, that the body is reminding that person what it was like to feel that emotion or that specific memory, or even music. I use music a lot in movement therapy. So when I play a specific song and that evokes emotion for them with the movement, I can't explain it, but it's really something magical to witness.
it's that integration. Now that's mind-blowing to me, thinking about how certain movements can bring that right up. And if you're getting people that have been, locked in, and you picture almost the stereotype of someone with advanced dementia, say in a wheelchair, and they're hunched and their arms are locked in, but if you're talking about breaking some of that, bringing the movement back, and how freeing that must be to someone who's felt locked inside themselves.
Right. And even having them maybe just, adjust their shoulders or their posture can shift such a perception in the mind, because the body and the mind are connected. So when we make shifts in our bodies, we make shifts in our minds, and vice versa.
I had someone say to me many years ago, when I was dealing with some depression, I was always walking and I was looking straight down. And I remember I made a comment to this friend of mine. I said, hey, you can always tell when I'm depressed because I walk looking straight down. And he said, dude, maybe think about the fact that you're depressed because you're looking straight down.
Wow.
And wow, that's a pretty wise cat. I still keep in touch with him, but
he's smart.
He was quite a party animal, but a smart guy. And but I remember trying and looking straight ahead, and I never really fell into that pattern again, because that shift was really powerful. What's going to blindside you when you're looking ahead?
Right.
I felt like I was more ready for the world. I felt my height.
Right.
And it was a powerful thing. That concept of movement, of being freed from those particular constraints. And you're increasing your horizons when you can see more of the horizon, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's true. It's true. Even putting a smile on our face and making ourselves smile throughout the day, that just releases neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine that increase our joy and our happiness. So the body has so much power over our mind, and we don't realize that. We call it bottom-up healing. Instead of healing from the top down, we heal from the bottom up.
Wow, that's kind of a stunning thought, because it literally, it's the reverse of what most of us think.
Right.
This is really incredible stuff.
One of your artists that you actually have on your show, after my show, Anthony Bucci.
Yep.
He's been playing at Harbor Chase in Palm Beach Gardens.
Yes.
And he goes to the memory care first, and then he goes down to, to the regular assisted living. And he said, I absolutely love the memory care.
Right.
Because he said, I interact with those seniors. I make them dance. I make their eyes smile. I make their lips smile. And he said, I just make that room absolutely so energetic. And so, and I can see that, and he loves it. So it's pretty incredible.
It's very cool to watch that. I remember when my grandmother was having dementia late in her life. And, you hit the point where you realize you've got to live in their world, right? I mean, because they're not going to come back and live in yours. And I remember talking with her and playing some of the music that she would have heard when she was young and in Laramie, Wyoming, farmer family, a teacher, riding a horse to work. And placing myself in her situation, playing some of the music from that time, the way she would tune right in. She moved more. She spoke more. She was who she had been at that time. And that's sort of what we're doing here, is we're bringing that back and giving that kind of an access and freedom back in some ways.
Which ties into that sense of purpose and meaning.
Wow, I love it when it just comes together and you put a nice little bow on it, right?
Full circle.
That's it.
Full circle, absolutely. And one of the things, too, with your services, when somebody does call and say, my mom is not eating, I don't know what's going on with her, those are also something that Horizon can help you with.
Absolutely.
To say, you know what, I have this company, and you talk about Horizon, because combining together our care is absolutely amazing.
Right.
And then I do the same thing. So I have patients who are depressed at home, even though they have their caregiver and they take them everywhere and we try everything. But so that's how we need Alexa's help.
And
you know what I mean?
Well, that's what you've put together here is just so powerful, Andrea. And you can learn more about all of it by heading over to horizoncareservices.com or calling 561-776-7757. And I used to be a financial advisor before I got into radio. So there were a lot of companies that I dealt with back then, and a lot I've worked with in my 23 years in this business. There's never been one I've seen to compare, even on like a minimal level, to what you have put together, Andrea.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
But it's true, and I
Yeah.
think so much of it comes to the quality of a human being that you are. It is a passion
Yes.
for you.
Yes. And I want to provide everything.
Yes.
I'm not here to provide you with a need,
Right.
to help you with bathing and dressing, remind you to take your medication.
Sure.
I want to do it all.
Yeah.
I want to look at your mom and at your dad, as tell me everything that we need to do for you,
Yes.
for you to have a long life, for you to have dignity, for
And a
you to
long,
live
good
with
life,
respect.
thriving
A good
as opposed to just
thriving,
surviving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, even though we have, patients with Alzheimer's dementia, we have different ways that we care for them as we, for some of them who are just physically declining, and those physical declining patient is the one that, for us, we try to do even more because they have, they understand more.
Yes,
You
it's
know
true.
what I mean? Even though we do a lot for the Alzheimer's patient, it's different. We treat them different because they are different and they have different needs.
Well, that's one of the powers of Horizon Care Services, really, because, again, I said earlier, there's nothing cookie cutter.
Right.
Everything is customized, including the team that you can put together to help people.
Yep.
It's really incredible what you've been able to do here.
And can I just say also, that's why I respect you, Andrea. I mean, the moment I met you at that event, you're such a connector.
She
and
really is.
Your whole approach in intervention is integrative. You pull from all these ancillary services to provide the very best care for your client. And that's what dance movement therapy is. It's all about integration.
Yep.
So you're literally a mirror of what I do for a living. And so I just think it's awesome that we're connected, and I want to be able to work with you in any way possible to help offer that comprehensive care to your patients.
Wonderful. And we are happy to work with you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, I love this. It's a great show, too. But
Yes.
Andrea, as always, I mean, what
I think the show is getting better every week, Mike.
I agree with that.
Every
We keep-
Saturday.
it keeps on building, and
know.
you just, as Alexia just said, you're a connector par excellence. And it's not just random connections. She picks the best people to connect with, and she can connect them with you. Whatever your needs may be when it comes to private duty home care, excellence is the word, and that's what Horizon Care Services provides. You can learn more about it by heading on over to the website, horizoncareservices.com, or calling 561-776-7757. Andrea can put you in touch with Alexia
Yes,
and the other
of course.
people that you may need. So our guest has been Alexia Loannides. She's a psychotherapist, dance movement therapist, and there's more that you do, and people can learn about that through that connection and through Andrea and through Horizon Care Services. Andrea, it's always such a pleasure. I always get kind of sad when we're out of time, just because I love the show and I love hanging out and
I
chatting.
know.
I know, right?
I love it too. I love it that we were able to share this wonderful Saturday morning with all of the listeners, and hopefully we're going to be bringing a lot more wonderful, wonderful people.
We've
to
got
talk
some
about.
big plans too. That,
Yes, we do.
We'll get into that down the line. But in the meantime, Horizon Care Services. It really is excellence in private duty home care. Andrea Albertini, once again, doing it again by bringing the best of the best together. And that's what you will find at Horizon Care Services. The team there is incredible. The other people that Andrea works with, the other services that she can bring to you to make sure that your loved ones are cared for in the best way possible. And you can sleep through the night knowing that your loved ones have everything they need.
Isn't
Whatever
that
the situation
wonderful?
is.
Isn't that wonderful?
There's nothing like it.
I know. I love it.
Limitless. That's what it is. Limitless Health Horizons on Legends 100.3. Mike McGann, Andrea Albertini, Alexia Loannides. Thank you all so much for everything. Again, horizoncareservices.com is the website to learn more. Lots more legendary programming on the way on our South Florida Saturday morning. No fooling. I know it's an April Fool's joke. What you going to do? Have a great day and stick around.
Horizon Care Services, because there's no place like home.